So, 3 days back, I was supposed to go on my honeymoon with my husband, but he invited his brother to come along. Well, he's not actually his brother, it's his cousin, but even then, it's really weird and I ended up not going on the trip at all because I was so annoyed. My husband, Joey, 27M, and I, 27F, met through friends, and after dating for almost 4 years, we got married a couple of weeks ago. For our honeymoon, we were supposed to go to Italy, but the trip ended up getting cancelled for the reasons that I just mentioned above. The worst part was that he did not think that it was important to consult with me before he made such a big decision. He just took it upon himself and booked all the flight tickets and stuff for his cousin, Pete, 28M, without even asking me if I would be fine with that. And the time that he chose to tell me about all of this was so convenient as well. It was just 30 minutes before our flight was supposed to take off, and it was at that point that I decided that I couldn't do this. While we were waiting, he told us that we would get 2 days to ourselves before Pete joined us, and just sprung it on me so casually, like it was something that we had discussed earlier. And when I asked him what he meant by that, he told me that he hadn't said anything about it earlier because he did not want me to freak out like I was doing at the moment. But he had invited Pete to accompany us on our honeymoon, and after 2 days, he would be joining us so he could take his mind off his situation. Around the same time that we were getting married, Pete's wife, Julia, had told him that she wanted a divorce. Apparently, after coming back from our wedding, she had said that attending our wedding had made her realize certain things, like how she was not meant to be with him. She was just not happy with him anymore and had apparently fallen in love with somebody else. She did not specify who it was, but she had said that she couldn't be with him anymore and be dishonest to herself and him, so she needed to get away from him. Pete was very depressed about it, so he had been really upset for the past couple of weeks ever since we got married, and that was why Joey had decided to invite him to come along with us so that would help him cheer up. Like any other normal human being, I got really annoyed, and I told him that this was not cool with me at all. I said that if Pete was joining us on our honeymoon, it was completely meaningless and I didn't care what he had said, but I wanted him to cancel immediately. But he started arguing with me and said that I was being heartless. Pete was going through a divorce, and he had been married for almost 3 years already since he and Julia had been high school sweethearts, and now suddenly she was not in love with him anymore, so he was going through a much harder time, and as his family, our moral duty was to be there for him. He thought that coming along with us on our honeymoon would be giving him a well-deserved break from everything, and he wanted me to know that this was important for them. He said that we were already getting 2 days to ourselves since he would be joining us later, and that should be enough for me. It was really exasperating and I was very frustrated while talking to him, so I just grabbed my things and told him that I didn't want to go on our honeymoon anymore. So I told him to enjoy the trip with Pete and I left almost immediately, while he tried to catch up with me, but I pretty much made a run for it, took the first cab I found, and went to my parents' house. Since then, I've been staying here and I have been very upset about everything. For the past 4 years that I have been with Joey, we have had our ups and downs, but they have always been normal fights that other couples also have, but this is just weird. From what I know, he did end up going on the trip with Pete, and that's what pissed me off even more. After I left the airport, he kept texting me to come back and said that he couldn't cancel everything because he had already paid for everything and some of it was non-refundable, so he did not want to lose his deposit. So he had to go on the trip and he just wanted me to rethink what I was doing and come back to him. He kept trying to convince me that he was doing this so that he could be there for Pete, and even said that after this was done, he would have a second honeymoon for just the two of us, but he just wanted me to compromise this one time. Truth be told, what it really hurt me was the fact that he had decided to spring this on me at the very last minute, so I could not even do anything about it, and I thought that it was really manipulative and dishonest of him, and that's not going to fly with me. If I'm in a relationship with somebody, I need them to be completely transparent with me and I need to be able to trust them, and after what he did, I don't think that's going to happen. So I messaged him last evening, telling him that I was going to file for a divorce or an annulment or whatever, but I just wanted this relationship to be over. I was very disappointed with it as well, but I couldn't see any other way forward. I don't think that after what has happened, we can just pretend like it's all fine and then move on with our lives. I'm not the kind of person who can just brush things under the rug and pretend it's okay. It sucked that our marriage was only going to last a couple of weeks, but I couldn't help it, this was not my fault. But then he responded to my message saying that I was overreacting and that we could just discuss this when he came back from the trip. And that was really annoying for me as well, because I was already so pissed off, and the fact that he had actually decided to go on the trip and be with his cousin, it was just ridiculous. I told him that his behavior right now was unreasonable, and he couldn't honestly expect me to forgive him and just move on. So I told him that it did not matter to me what he believed, I was just done with all of this and I wanted to get out of this relationship as fast as I could. So I was going to wait for him to come back because I obviously could not get this marriage entered without his consent, but I was going to talk to my lawyer and have everything prepared. And then, I blocked him so I wouldn't have to entertain this anymore. Now I need some peace of mind for myself, and I need time and space to process all of this. But it seems to me that his family just cannot accept that fact. This morning, I received a bunch of messages from my in-laws, saying that what I was doing was really messed up and that I should at least give him a chance to try and fix the situation. They agree that what he did was not right, but my decision to end the marriage is definitely an overreaction, according to them. And why wouldn't it be? Obviously they're gonna take their son's side over mine. We have had a good relationship over the past couple of years, and I thought that they, at the very least, would realize that what he did was immensely screwed up, but they think that I should give him a chance. My parents think that I should do whatever I feel is right, and I think that I should end the marriage. However, judging by the reactions of people so far, I'm very confused. His parents are quite against the idea of us ending our marriage, and they think that we should really wait things out and try to at least talk to each other, sort things out, and come to a conclusion only after having a conversation about this in person once he returns from his trip. My parents think that whatever I decide is going to be for the best. So they are pretty much neutral about all of this, and I know that they really mean it when they say that they are going to be on my side, no matter what. I have spoken to a couple of my friends about this as well, but they have been pretty divided. Some of them think that I should wait for him to come back, discuss this with him, and then take a step. And the others think that what I'm doing right now is the right thing to do. They believe that I should file for an annulment and get this over with because what he did was not okay. So Wibta for ending my marriage because my husband decided to invite his cousin who is going through a divorce on our honeymoon? Edit. So a lot of people have had questions about the closeness of Joey and Pete, and well, I would say that they have been pretty close. From what I know, they have been the best of friends ever since they were little, and yeah, they're close. However, I still don't think that's an excuse to invite him on our honeymoon and expect me to be fine with it. Also, I had no idea that he was going through a divorce. In fact, I don't think anybody in the family knew about it until all of this was uncovered. From what I have gathered so far, Julia had just filed for a divorce after we got married, and the proceedings still haven't started, and it's only going to commence once he returns from this trip. Julia and I have never really been friends. We have interacted a couple of times when we met on the holidays and stuff, but apart from that, we don't have much to talk about, so I'm definitely not going to talk about this to her. Also, a lot of people have been asking about who was actually in love with, and honestly, I have no idea. Joey didn't really get into that, and I don't think she has specified who it was, so there's no way that I can disclose it because I don't really know. But if somehow able to find out who she's actually in love with or whether she's having an affair or not, I will definitely be posting it here and keep you guys updated. For now, whatever information that I have mentioned it in my post, and yeah, that's it. I'm not too worried about the financial aspect of the divorce because I don't think that if we do get our management alert, we're going to have any trouble separating that, since we have always maintained separate finances and records. We don't really have that many joint assets either, so I think that's going to be a pretty easy process, but I don't even know what I'm going to do right now, so I haven't thought that far, and I'm just trying to process what's going on as of now, and even that's proving to be pretty difficult for me. Update 1. Hello. So I've spoken to my lawyer and I've told him that I want him to draw up the papers to get this marriage annulled. It was an incredibly difficult thing to do, but it's been almost a week and he is still blocked. He can contact me in other ways, and yet, he has chosen not to do that. So I don't really know what to say anymore. I had only blocked his phone number and he couldn't call me, but I haven't blocked him on social media, so if he really wanted to speak to me, he could have chosen to text me on literally any social media platform, but there is not a single message that I have received from him. Even his parents just called me after one time, and then, there's been radio silence from that end as well. I have been feeling terrible about all of this for the past couple of days, and that's why I was forced to make this decision. I had been considering letting him come back, and then, after discussing things and sorting things out in person, we could go ahead with whatever we wanted to do, but now, I think there is no moving on from this. Thankfully, I still had the keys to the house, so I went over to our place, gathered all the stuff that belonged to me, and moved back in with my parents. When he comes back, I'm probably gonna have to talk to him, and then we can sell all the furniture that we bought together and end the lease on that house, or at least remove me from the agreement. I've already spoken to a couple of people and I'm gonna start looking for a separate apartment now. I just want to keep myself busy so that I don't have to think about what's going on in my life and how miserable I'm feeling currently. I keep thinking that he is gonna text me at some point, but so far, it hasn't happened, and I keep hoping that maybe there will be some way that this will work out, but I really think that it's unlikely at this point. My parents and most of my friends have been very supportive, so I'm very grateful for that. According to our plan, Joey and I were supposed to return from our honeymoon in 2 days, so if he and Pete are still going to stick to our itinerary, they are going to be back in 2 days, and after that, I can finally speak to him in person and put an end to all of this. Even saying it hurts me so much, but I know that it's the right thing to do, and I just have to end this, for my own good. Just hope that things go smoothly when he comes back. Update 2. So Joey and Pete came back from their trip yesterday, according to our itinerary. I know that because after they returned, he texted me on Instagram to ask if we could talk. I was working at the time, so I didn't really want to respond to it, but when I received that text, I was so upset that I ended up replying anyway, and I told him that no, we couldn't talk. Because the time to talk had passed and he had chosen not to contact me for the past week, even though he had screwed up royally and hurt my feelings. I had no interest in speaking to him and we had nothing to talk about. I also informed him that I had already spoken to my lawyer and now that he was back, we could move forward with the proceedings and get this marriage annulled. For a couple of minutes, there was no reply from him, but then, he told me that he was really sorry for not contacting me earlier, but apparently, he was just trying to be there for Pete. He said that he could understand that I was upset, but there were a lot of things that I did not know and a lot of factors that he had to consider, and if I just spoke to him then he would be able to explain his reasons as to why he had done these things. I'm not going to lie, that really piqued my interest because if he had reasons, I really wanted to know. Even though I was not sure what kind of reasons could have possibly justified something like this, I wanted to know if he had a real genuine explanation for any of this. So after thinking about it for a while, I told him to come over to my parents' house today and in the evening, he's supposed to come by and we can discuss things. I don't think I'm gonna go back to him, no matter what the circumstances are, but at least I'm gonna get some answers out of him. I deserve that much, I know that. Also, my lawyer had dropped off the papers for the announcement this morning, so even if I don't get a satisfactory answer as to why any of this has happened, at least I'm gonna be able to get him to fill in the paperwork and then we can move forward with this process. Either way, we were gonna have to meet at some point, and I couldn't have avoided him forever. So I'm just gonna get this over with as soon as possible. Hopefully, he has a good enough explanation for all of this because if he doesn't, it's just gonna mess with my head even more and make me feel even more miserable than I already do. Anyway, he's gonna be here in a couple of hours so I'm just mentally preparing myself for that. Update 3, Joey came by as he said, and he just left about an hour ago. So it's been an hour since that I'm still reeling from everything that he has told me. When he came by, he seemed very awkward, and he started off by apologizing to me. He told me that he knows very well that what he did was a horrible thing to do and he has broken my trust, so he is well aware of the fact that it's going to be either very difficult or probably impossible to repair that. So he's not gonna force me to come back or beg me to fix things with him. I thought that it was pretty surprising because I had really expected him to at least try and make things work, since initially, it had seemed like he was going to do that. But when he said that he could understand where I was coming from and why I did not want to stay married to him anymore, I thought this was a different discussion from what I presumed it was going to be. After his apology, he went on to tell me that Pete had always been a brother to him, and they had grown up together, so knowing that he was going through a divorce and the fact that his wife was in love with somebody else, he knew that it couldn't have been easy. He felt really bad for the guy and that was one of the reasons he had invited him to come along on our honeymoon. But that was not all, it was just the tip of the iceberg. Apparently, the real reason that he had invited Pete was not just because he felt bad for him but because the person that Julia was actually in love with was none other than him. When he said that, I honestly thought that he was joking, and I really didn't know how to react for a good couple of minutes. Then, I asked him how he knew that and at what point exactly did he find out about it. So he went on to tell me that he had found out because Julia had confessed to him the night before our wedding. He even unlocked his phone and showed me the text that she had sent him and there it was, and I could hardly believe what I was seeing. From the time that I had known his family, I had always noticed that he and Julia seemed to have a very strong platonic relationship. But it had never even occurred to me that the person she was in love with could have been Joey because I had always just written them off as friends and nothing more, but that was clearly not the case. When I saw that text, I asked him why he hadn't told me about it because this seemed important and I believed that as his fiancé, I should have known that somebody in the family had literally confessed their love to him one night before our wedding. But Joey told me that he did not want to stir up any drama on the night before the wedding, so he decided not to tell me anything. I thought that it was a very lame reason, and I told him that not telling me was a pretty bad idea. And once again, he did not fight with me, but just agreed and said that he was not thinking straight. He was just trying to avoid drama at any cost, so he kept things quiet, and on the day of our wedding, after the ceremony was over, he decided to speak to Julia in person and tell her that this was never going to happen. He said that he had taken Julia aside for a couple of minutes during the reception and when they had spoken, he had asked if she had meant what she had said in the text, and when she confirmed it, he told her that she had to leave Pete. Because if she didn't even love him, she was just wasting his time and he deserved better. Besides, if she didn't tell him, he was definitely going to. They had a bit of an argument about it because Julia did not want to tell him. She apparently believed that since Joey was not going to break his relationship with me, regardless of whether she loved him or not, it seemed like a total waste to tell Pete the truth and leave him because even if she was not completely happy with him, she was at least content. But Joey said that she was being disgusting and if she really did not love him, then she needed to leave him. My husband has apparently had a huge role to play in the divorce of his brother and out of guilt, he had invited me to accompany us on our honeymoon so that he could spend some time with us and not feel as miserable as he would have felt if he was alone. He explained to me that he had known how much Pete loved Julia, he knew that this was going to be very difficult for him and he just didn't want to leave him alone. After hearing him out, I tried to be quiet for a couple of minutes and process all this information and then, I asked him why hadn't just been honest with me from the beginning. All these problems that were ruining our relationship were caused due to a complete lack of transparency on his end. He had no answer for that, he just said that he didn't want to get into any of this because he thought it was going to lead to more drama and confrontations and he was not very good at any of that. After this discussion, he told me that now, if I still wanted to proceed with the annulment, I could definitely do so, but he just wanted to get this off his chest and let me know the truth. So I told him that getting the marriage annulled was not something that I was excited about, but it was a necessity, at this point. Very clearly, he was still struggling to be honest with me and that was not going to work in a marriage. I told him that I appreciated the fact that he had come clean to me, but right now, it was too little and too late. Because he was trying so hard to make sure that he did not leave Pete alone, he sort of took me for granted and ended up leaving me alone. I then went on to tell him how miserable I had been for the past couple of days and he hadn't even bothered to check up on me, and that was what hurt me the most. He tried to justify himself by saying that he was trying to be there for Pete and at least do one thing with full sincerity, but I told him that it did not matter. He had made certain promises to me when we started dating, that he would always be there for me and he would always make sure that I knew how much he loved me. Even when we got married, these things were in his vows, but after that, I couldn't feel his love, and neither did I feel like he was being there for me. I told him that I could understand that he had felt lost when Julia sent him that message, but if I was in his place, the first thing that would have occurred to me was that I had to tell my fiancée, the person that I love the most, and then, we could deal with this together. He had nothing to say to that, and he acknowledged the fact that he had messed up. And then, he asked me if I still loved him, and after thinking about it, I told him that I did, but it did not matter. Love was not enough to sustain a relationship, and that was obvious at this point. So I told him that whether I loved him or not was immaterial. After everything that had happened, I think both of us needed time to heal, and going our separate ways would be the best way to do that for now. When I said that, he just nodded, and I saw that he had tears in his eyes, and I felt really bad, but I know that we have no other way out of this. So in spite of how terrible I was feeling, the two of us filled out the paperwork and we're going to go to get our marriage annulled in a couple of days. I'm still trying to process everything that I have learned this evening, and it's not going to be easy to move on from any of this, but I'm gonna have to at least try. We had one last hug before he left today and I almost felt like I was going to break down, but I didn't. I stayed strong. And I think I'm gonna have to do that until I'm able to move on from this completely. So wish me luck. I have a feeling that I'm gonna need it. Update 4. Hey, so it's been close to a year, I think, since I broke up with Joey. We got the marriage annulled, and a couple of weeks after that, I gathered the last of my things from our house and moved into my own apartment. It was very difficult for me to go back to living on my own after years of living with Joey, but I had to get used to it. For the first couple of months after the breakup, we steered clear of each other and did not speak to each other if we could avoid it. But about 4 months ago, we met again at a wedding, since one of our common friends was getting married, and we had been invited. Both of us attended, and when we met, we were friendly with each other. Of course, it was nothing like how it used to be, and I, to be honest, am glad about it. I had expected that it was going to be very hard for me to see him again, but honestly, it was not that bad and we are back on speaking terms, but we're just friends now. I got to know that while Pete was getting divorced, Joey decided to tell him the truth about why this was happening, and Julia was actually in love with him, but once he found out that it was him, he decided to cut him off and they no longer speak to each other. So taking him on our honeymoon obviously did not soften the blow like he had expected it to, and we even joked about how it would have been better for us to just go on the honeymoon ourselves and maybe that would have saved our marriage. We hung out together, reminisced about old times together with our friends, and had a generally fun time. He told me that he had moved out of our old house a couple of months after I moved out because without me, he had nobody to split the rent with, and it was getting unaffordable for him. He also told me that he had quit his job and was now starting something of his own, which he had always talked about when we were together, and I was really happy for him. I told him a little about my life as well, and we discovered that we lived just a couple of blocks away from each other. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm happy to be in this neutral space, as of now. To be honest, I'm not really sure if I have completely moved on from him yet or not, but I know that being on good terms with him makes me happy. So maybe our relationship didn't last, but I guess this friendship might.